Hey everyone, welcome back to What's Going On after our short spring break hiatus. Hope everyone is doing well today. And as always, we have our co-host Tarrant with Victory Teaching Farm. Hey Tarrant, how are you?
Hey Dorothy, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I love the spring flowers behind you. Those are so pretty. And that's perfect because that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today are flowers and their benefits. April showers bring May flowers. And so before we get started, we just want to remind everybody that we are not medical professionals, and any of this information, that we talk about some medicinal attributes of flowers and flowering herbs. It's for information purposes only. And of course, before you do anything, you should always consult your medical professional before changing or starting any regimen of diet or anything of that sort. So we just wanted to put that out there, but I'm really excited about today's episode as I was kind of building it based on Tarrant's expert notes. I just was getting more and more fascinated with it. So Tarrant, tell us, let's get started and tell us a little bit about, some of the beautiful and beneficial flowers for our garden.
Okay, yeah. So flowers can not only be beautiful, but they have very beneficial aspects to them. Some of my favorites for this is marigolds, cosmos, and zinnias. And so these are very easy to obtain at any of your local gardening centers, seeds and already grown plants. But these particular flowers, not only are they beautiful, but they attract beneficial insects. And some of these beneficial insects feast on the ones that are not beneficial. They also can deter rabbits. And that was specific for the marigolds and the zinnias and the cosmos, which we've had that question in the past about rabbits getting into people's gardens and things like that. But and there's many other beneficial. These are just kind of three of my favorite ones because specifically with the cosmos and the zinnias, you not only do you have them in your garden and they're beneficial, but then you have cut flowers that you can bring inside and put in a vase and brighten up your home with spring flowers. So planting these, specifically the marigolds, those seem to be the biggest help in the garden. At the farm, we would plant marigolds in all four corners of every raised bed. Now, these are like 16-foot by 4-foot raised beds. So a big space, but planting marigolds in every corner, we feel like that helped us to really never have any kind of pest problem. We never had any issues with our tomatoes, like the hornworms and things like that. The only thing we ever had, and I never could figure out how to get rid of these, but during the wintertime, these little gnats would like to eat on our greens. But of course, in the winter too, you do have a less, your flowers aren't in bloom as much and whatever. But marigolds, I plant those in the corners of my own garden. And I mean, I honestly believe in them. I believe they truly help.
Wow, that's so cool. So marigolds are just kind of a little bit of a miracle plant there. So, and like you said, they're so pretty. Everything is so pretty. That's what's so nice about this. All right.
They are. And there's one thing, and I meant to put it in here. And so I'm going to hold this up in front of the camera. Sure. Hopefully everyone can see it. But this is something that I encourage people to look for when they're buying, because this is a natural way with these flowers, a natural way to attract beneficial insects and to deter those that are not beneficial, that are going to eat your fruit or your vegetables. But some plants are treated with a pesticide. And so this is kind of what that looks like. So it's like your little plant tag that comes in. Uh-oh, where'd I go?
Sorry about that. I was trying to make you big and it made me big instead. So
that's okay. So this is what those plant tags look like. And it says this plant is protected from problematic aphids, whiteflies, beetles, mealybugs, and other unwanted pests by neonicotinoids. They say that these pesticides are FDA approved and so forth and so on. the plant itself has a pesticide already on it. So if this is a plant that is one that you're wanting to attract the beneficial insects and the pollinators and your bees and your butterflies, this pesticide affects them also. So I always encourage, and the neonicotinoids is what it's a mouthful, and I hope I'm saying it right. I know I am. Neonicotinoids. This particular pesticide is what, if anybody's ever heard of colony collapse with bees, or that our bees are disappearing and our bees are dying, this is that particular pesticide that has been linked to that. Okay. So I encourage people, if you see this tag, to move on to a different plant or move on to a different garden center, or to buy seeds and grow your own, because it's a pesticide. And if you're trying to go the natural way, specifically with planting these companion flowers alongside your vegetable garden, you're kind of defeating the purpose if you're buying a plant that's treated with a pesticide.
So it's a neonicotinoid, and okay. And it's extremely, I'm writing this in the comments so we can have it for notes later. And it's extremely toxic to bees.
Yes, that's it's been linked to that. Yeah. Do we have hello from Egypt?
Wow. Well, hello.
Well, hello.
Hi there. Welcome.
Yes, absolutely.
That's exciting. Great to have you. All right.
We've gone international.
We sure have. That's great. So speaking of bees, there are other flowers that you can plant to actually attract bees and butterflies, right? So let's talk about those.
Yes, so these are your pollinator plants. And so what does pollination do? So the transfer of pollen in between the flowers of the same species leads to fertilization, which allows those to go to seed, to create more seeds or to self-seed themselves so you have them year after year. It also helps with fruit production for your plants. Pollination ensures that your plant is going to produce a full-bodied fruit and a full set of seeds. And so it's very important. Without the pollinators, completely without them, you probably would not have much of a garden. So these are very important to your garden. And again, they're flowers and they're beautiful. So not only do you get the benefits of what they do naturally, but you get beautiful flowers in your garden. Absolutely. And so some of my favorites, and these are all very easily obtained from your local garden centers, or you can order seeds offline. Typically, they have these seeds also in your local garden centers. But butterfly bush, and they're beautiful. They are absolutely beautiful. And butterfly bush gets really big. Coneflower, which is also known as echinacea, which we'll talk about echinacea later on, because this is kind of one of those edible type flowers that has medicinal purposes. Daisies. I'm going to skip dandelion because I'm going to come right back to that. Lavender, marigolds, milkweed is another. Milkweed is what the monarchs feed upon. And so that is their choice of plants. So milkweed is wonderful to plant to help with the monarch population. Snapdragons, sunflowers, dandelion. So coming back to dandelion is what we typically see just growing in the cracks of our driveway or our walkways. They just randomly pop up, but these are extremely important plants too. And so many people look at them as weeds, but they're very important. And they also have medicinal purposes as well. But yeah, pollinator plants, you definitely want to plant some kind of pollinator plant in, around, or near your garden. And then, of course, you get the beauty of the plant, and then you're attracting those pollinators that are going to help with the growth of everything else.
Awesome. And we have a question, and this is a pretty good question before we move on. Any advice for managing carpenter bees? Candy says she doesn't want to hurt them, but they love eating her deck. And I know my dad has this challenge where he lives, because he has a huge wooden deck, and it's always a challenge. But So I honestly don't know the answer to that. My dad has some bee traps, but they're not very good for the bees. So do you have any thoughts on that?
So my first thought is, Candy, I feel your pain. We are dealing with them right now with our deck and the eaves of our house.
Mhm.
And there's little holes all
Yep.
through. Um, Unfortunately, and we've tried different kind of traps and things like that, but to like a natural kind of method to maybe
Mhm.
trap them, and they know the difference.
Mhm.
And so the only thing that I've ever read beyond, and I wouldn't encourage any kind of poison, but is to the holes, and this still is probably going to harm a few of them that may still be,
Mhm.
inside your deck or inside, but to seal the holes off.
Mhm.
And I think it's kind of a constant battle that you're constantly having to seal the holes.
Yeah.
And then either if they're already inside there, then they can't get back out, or, when they come
Yeah.
back, their home is no longer accessible, and they'll
Right.
find another place. But unfortunately, they're going to find another place, probably on another part of your deck or another part of the eve of your house. So I'm kind of in that same dilemma with you, because, eventually they're just going to tunnel through, and then, you're going to have
Right.
severe damage. I mean,
Yeah.
so,
Well, and I was just Googling it, so that's why I was looking away, everybody. I apologize, but I was looking up like non-toxic ways, and there is a recommendation on the interwebs to try solutions of water with citrus oil or almond oil, and use a spray bottle to apply around the bee holes to encourage the bees to leave. Loud noises and vibrations are known to repel bees, so play loud music with speakers next to the
jump up
area.
and down on your deck.
Yeah. So, I don't think trying some watered down citrus oil or almond oil and spraying it, along your deck and stuff, that I don't think it's going to hurt your deck, and it's something that's non-toxic that shouldn't hurt the bees but should repel them. So I don't think it would hurt to try. I don't, again, this is off the interwebs, so I don't know how truthful it is, but I think it's something you can try. We'll see.
I will be trying that. Thank you, Dorothy,
Yeah,
for looking that up.
you
I
are
will
more than welcome.
myself. Just like I said, Candy, I'm right there with you, right
Yeah.
there with you. And we've had, we have it every year. They, they
Mhm.
constantly come back. But if we can repel them and shoo them
Mhm.
maybe to the neighbor's house, they're gonna find another home, and
Right.
hopefully,
Right.
an application. And you said citrus or
Citrus
almond.
oil or almond oil is what it said.
Okay,
Yep.
then your
Yep.
deck will smell good too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that was from a large, well-known home improvement store chain. So I feel like it's a pretty decent. Uh, but like I said, couldn't hurt to try.
Right.
So yeah, awesome. So you had mentioned that dandelions had medicinal purposes. And so we're going to get into the medicine of flowers in a little bit, but let's talk about some edible flowers. This is my favorite. It was so much fun to write up. So talk to us about foodie flowers.
Yeah, so I think anybody, and I'm gonna hop around with these, but anybody who has, at least I say, grown up in the South, there may be honeysuckle in the North, there may be honeysuckle in Egypt, I'm not sure, but I know growing up in the South, and I grew up in New Orleans actually, but even here in Alabama, honeysuckle is everywhere, and so. And you see the picture of the little child, the blossoms, you can suck the nectar out of them. Real quick, don't use the berries though, they're poisonous. But the flower blossom, you can suck the nectar out. And I think so many kids did this when they were little. I mean, I remember
Yeah,
doing it. It was just a fun thing to do. Your parents
me
said, "Hey,
too.
you can get sweet stuff out of that little flower over there." And so absolutely honeysuckle. I think a lot of people were already kind of familiar with that. And then you can add them to salads and things like that. But then you've got nasturtiums, And so this is something we also grew at the farm on multiple occasions. It's nasturtiums, and they're beautiful flowers. They have a big green leaf, so they're real. They have the big green leaf, but then they have all the beautiful different colored flowers. And so you can eat the blossoms. You can also eat the leaves, but the blossoms have a peppery flavor, almost kind of like a watercress. So you can add them to salads, you can add them to pasta, whatever your heart desires. But yes, they are edible. Marigolds are also edible. And I have not ever eaten a marigold. I've tried honeysuckle, I've tried nasturtiums, I've not eaten a marigold, but they're known to have a citrus taste. The one thing about marigolds, though, is that, and that's one of the things that is their attribute of being a beneficial because they deter pests. They don't smell very good. They definitely don't smell like citrus. But that's kind of part of why they, deter, because of their scent. But they are known to have a citrus taste. And again, you can add them to salads, put them on a cupcake, anything to pretty up. Pansies. Now pansies, and I have seen this done before a lot. Pansies are a real popular flower that bakers add to cakes and cupcakes and things like that. And then Johnny Jump Ups. But they have and it says that pretty on cakes and desserts. I didn't even read what I had put in there. But they supposedly have a wintergreen kind of flavor, so kind of a minty kind of flavor. But yeah, the pansies definitely, I've seen that a lot with
I have too,
and things like that. So if you're adventurous, and the particular picture looks like maybe some crackers with maybe some cream cheese or something, and then the little flowers are so your next dinner get together, you could get fancy and have an appetizer that had pansies on them.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, they're so pretty too. I mean, it's just, I've seen sugared pansies before. I don't think I was brave enough to try one at the time, but now it's interesting that they have a wintergreen flavor. All right, so here's our next ones.
Yeah, and you mentioned sugared pansies. I saw over the weekend, I was just doing a little bit of more reading before today's episode, and magnolias are prevalent, obviously, here in South Alabama. And so I read that you can actually use the magnolia blooms as well. And they have a very strong smell, a very strong flowery smell. But I also read that that was something people were using in desserts, and they were candying or sugaring them too, and adding them to desserts and things like that. So, okay, so moving on. Borage. So this is an herb that has flowers, and a lot of your herbs, chives are one, produce really pretty flowers. This one has a cucumber taste, which I think is very interesting to add to, your salads. And then another recommendation, and you can do this with lots of different herbs and flowers. You could do this with pansies or the marigolds, is to freeze them in ice cubes for, your summer, fancy drinks, which I think, adds a really beautiful touch when you're, and then there's bee balm. So this is part of the mint family. So it has minty tasting flowers, but it's beautiful flowers, bright red, purples, pinks. So it's something else that's beautiful to add to your garden. That's also beneficial for bringing in pollinators. And again, you can eat it. Chamomile. I think a lot of people are familiar with chamomile. And English chamomile is the one that has a small daisy kind of flowers, and they have an apple flavor. But the one thing, and those of us down here in the South are very familiar with the ragweed, and if you're allergic to ragweed, you should avoid chamomile. So, but yeah, this is a great plant to have in your garden too. Tea, it's most commonly used in chamomile tea. So then, and that's where you get into its medicinal purposes. But again, it has like that apple flavor. And then daylilies. And isn't it interesting, all of these flowers that we grow or we see in other gardens, that they are actually all edible. I'm like you. I really loved researching this because I knew of some,
Yeah.
but to realize that there's so many more that are edible.
Yeah.
But the daylily, so the buds and the flowers are edible, and they taste like asparagus.
Huh.
And so you can use them to garnish, stuffed, made into fritters. You can throw them in stir fry. And then they're, again, just a beautiful addition that tastes like asparagus, which blows my mind.
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, because you see daylilies and you think of them more as in bouquets, but not
Right.
in entrees. So very cool.
From
And
bouquet to entree.
from bouquet to entree. So all right. And here are two very familiar ones.
Yes. So mint. And just a word to the wise: if you're going to plant mint, be sure you either have it containerized or you have it in a space where it can spread its leaves, because mint multiplies, and before you know it, it will have taken over your entire garden. But
And it loves water, doesn't it? Like you can put it in like a marshy area. Is that
yeah,
correct?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it's a very resilient herb. So
Yeah.
it pretty much can grow anywhere and without, it's what I like to call nature takes care of it. Because I have some mint in my yard and I don't do anything to it. I mean, nature just takes care of it. It does its thing and it is always happy. But of course, mint, it's a minty, a minty kind of taste. There's a lemon balm kind of, and it looks kind of the same, but it has a lemony taste. And I actually plant lemon balm. And so I love to do sun tea, where I put my tea in my glass jar and set it out on my deck and let the sun steep the tea. And I will get lemon balm or mint, depending on what I want, and put it in with my tea. And it's like you have, lemon tea or you have mint tea. So, and then of course with mint and everything, you can add it to almost anything. There's so many different varieties. There's spearmint, there's peppermint, there's chocolate mint. So it's a really fun herb, to plant in your garden. But again, make sure it has plenty of room, and because it'll overtake. So the next one is a delicacy at the fancy restaurants, and that's squash blossoms. So when we think about, we're growing our squash and we're waiting for those blossoms to open up and create the squash. So, and I don't want to say because I can't remember right now, right off, but there's a male blossom and a female blossom. And Dorothy, if you got a second to look it up, the difference between male and female blossoms. So one blossom is the female blossom, and I believe the female blossom is what produces the actual squash. So you don't want to pick those. But there's a male blossom, or vice versa. If Dorothy can find it for us, we can kind of figure that out. But anyway, so you want to make sure you're picking the right blossom. But the squash blossoms, these are a delicacy, and you can eat them. And the typical way to prepare them is to stuff them with your favorite kind of cheese. And the most popular method is to lightly bread them and pan fry them. And they're absolutely delicious, delicious. So with your squash plants, not only do you get squash, but you've got the blossom that you can also turn into a meal.
And so that's I'm looking up. It says the female squash blossoms have a small swollen embryonic fruit at their base, and which will grow into a squash if the bee does what bees do. Male squash blossoms are showier and they tend to hang out on long, skinny stalks all along the plant.
Yep. Okay. That's what I thought. I just didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say wrong. But yeah, so the male squash blossom is just basically a stem coming out from the plant. And you would be able to tell the difference because you can look and see, because the female is going to have that extra where the squash is coming out. So
right. And let me see if I can show this really quickly. Let me So, whoa, where am I? There
I
we
know.
are. So if y'all can see, there's the female and it's got the little, there goes my phone. But, oh, where am I going? Sorry guys. This is opposite of
It's
what,
opposite. I know.
yeah.
That's when I was holding up the thing.
Yeah. So there's the difference. You can see on the female where it's talking about kind of, it's got the rounder little bulbous thing at the base of it.
Yeah.
And yeah. And so that's pretty interesting. I didn't know there were male and female ones. So I guess you want to pick the male ones and eat those because they don't make the squash. So that's pretty cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So now we're going to be talking about feeling good with flowers. And so here are some of the medicinal purposes that people have used flowers for in the past.
Right. And again, everybody refer back to our disclaimer from the very first of the show.
We're not doctors.
We're not doctors.
We don't even play them on TV. So
we do not. So yes, absolutely. And you can actually, a lot of these particular flowers, teas are made out of them and you can buy them in your local grocery store. But you can also make them yourself. So if you're growing these flowers, and you're clear to do so, and you've talked to your medical professionals, you can make your own teas right out of your garden. So nasturtium, and most of these are ones that we've already talked about. So not only are flowers beneficial to our gardens and helping our gardens grow, they're beautiful. They have beneficial properties as far as bringing in pollinators and things like that and deterring. They also have medicinal purposes. So you not only can eat them, but when you eat them, they're actually good for you. So nasturtiums are one, and nasturtiums are known to have an antimicrobial property that are known or supposed to be effective remedies against cold and flu. And so I think either eating them or making a tea out of them would both be, get those benefits. Dandelions, dandelion tea is a very popular tea for cleansing our systems. And so again, they grow like weeds. I mean, they essentially are known as a weed, but they're very effective for cleansing. Lavender. So lavender is used mostly in aromatherapy, and it's a calming. It has a calming fragrance. So it helps with stress and anxiety and tension and body aches, but lavender is known to calm. The same as chamomile. Chamomile is also a tea, and very popular as a tea because it's used for stress relief, but it's also been used to relieve common colds as well. Jasmine is another tea that's supposed to help with improving your digestive system and quality of sleep, which if anybody is like me, I need anything and everything that will help improve my sleep. The older I get, the harder it is to sleep. So anything naturally that can help with my quality of sleep, I am on board. And then also, anxiety. So there's kind of like a trend here that a lot of them help to be kind of an antimicrobial kind of help with your immune system, but stress and anxiety and sleep. And so if we can have our immune system strengthened, ease stress and anxiety, and get a good night's rest, then I think it's all worth it.
Absolutely. I will be growing all of this. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is annuals versus perennials, which is always very confusing for me. I always get this mixed up. So if you can set me straight, Tarrant, tell me about them.
And I'm the same way. I always get mixed up with it. Now, which is which? But annual. So really just think annual, yearly. They die in the winter. You have to replant them every year. So when you think about an annual versus a perennial, annuals have to be planted every year. But perennials, they come back every year. So you only need to plant them once, and they may die down in your garden and completely disappear. But then when spring comes, they emerge again. And so lavenders, shasta daisies, daylilies, butterfly bush, hydrangeas, asters, echinacea, sage, black-eyed Susans, and vinca are all really good perennials to plant in your yard. Now, vinca, and it's one of my faves, and we'll get to that too, vinca is actually an annual, but it's an annual and a perennial.
Huh.
So the reason for that is because it will self-seed itself.
Mm-hmm.
Which many of these flowers, that could be a possibility. But vinca is one that's known to be classified as an annual, but it will self-seed and will come back every year. And I have vincas planted in my front yard, in my front flower bed, and I've never had them not come back. And even this past winter, when we had like several days of hard freeze, killed pretty much every plant I had, and I even had them all covered, double covered. But they've come back with a vengeance. They're even bigger, and they'll bush out and they'll get bigger and they'll get bigger. So vinca is definitely one of my favorites of the annual / perennial.
Awesome. Nice. Yeah. So that lays it out very clearly. So that is really good to know. So perennials come back.
Right.
And annuals. Right.
Yeah. So it just depends on what your preference is. I mean, if you want, if you're planning a permanent space that's going to be a permanent flower garden, then you definitely want to look for perennials.
Yeah.
If you just are, wanting to plant a couple of pots for a certain area, and then you may decide to put something different there or whatever, then annuals would be a good choice. But either, I mean, they're all beautiful. So
excellent. All right. So now we are going to talk about your favorites that you like to have in your garden. So Tarrant, tell us about your favorites and why they're your favorite.
Okay. And I think I've already said a lot of this, but yeah, the vinca, because they're so pretty and they stay lush, and the flowers, you don't really have to, they're another that nature takes care of, unless you're like in a severe drought. I don't ever water mine. I mean, they're out in my front yard, so they get rainwater, but they have always come back every year, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're always so full of flowers and so bright. So that is one of my favorites. Marigolds, because they help with the garden. They protect, they're beneficial, they're beautiful. Mint, I talked about the mint because I love to do the sun tea out on the deck, and I love to add mint to it, or the lemon balm mint. And so that's another one of my favorites. And so these particular last two, so morning glories, these are like a beautiful vining plant, and the flowers are just beautiful, and they open up with the sunrise. And so, early in the morning, they're at their finest glory, no pun intended. And then moonflower, which is the same family. So moonflower, they are at their finest glory at night. And because of the coloration, the white of the flower, when the moon hits it, they look as if they are glowing.
Wow.
So that's why they're called moonflower. But yeah, I don't have any right now, but at nighttime, they literally look like they are lit up. So they're a beautiful addition to your garden. And then at nighttime, you typically don't think of, enjoying flowers at night. Well, this is one that you absolutely can, because it glows with the moonlight.
Oh, that's so cool. And I love morning glories just because they remind me of the beach, because I remember waking up in the morning way back when I was a child, and there were actually a lot more sand dunes and a lot less buildings on the beach, but there would just be vines and vines of morning glories everywhere. So it was, it's just, yeah. So that one's one of my personal faves too. And of course I love mint just because for me, it's very easy to grow. It's very easy to root and water. And and like you said, it will take care of itself and grow. So it's actually one of those that makes me feel good because A, I can forget about it, which I often do with plants, and B, it still seems to like me. So Now, Tarrant, before we, let me see. Goodness gracious. Sorry about that. Before we go, tell us what's behind you. What do you have? What flowers do you have arranged behind you there?
Okay, so got Shasta daisies. Oh gosh, I just bought this one, and I bought it because it was so beautiful. I'm sorry, the name has escaped me. But this one, the purple one. Let's see.
Yeah.
See, everything's opposite. Let's see if I can. There we go.
go.
So this one, and I just bought this one too to add to my garden. That is delphinium.
Oh yeah. Very pretty. I love that name too. So, and I'm like, I know these flowers, but I can't think of their name, but they're really pretty. So
I know, and I took the tag out. So
but I do love the daisies and I do love the delphinium. So that's a very pretty arrangement. So thank you so much, Tarrant, for joining us again today. And our next episode is going to be, what did I say? Is it the 26th of April? Yes, it's the 26th of April. So next episode is going to be the 26th of April. Tune in. We'll be talking, about all things at-home gardening. So, if you have any questions, as always, please email Tarrant. Let me pop her email up here real quick. And email Tarrant at tlanier@victoryteachingfarm.org. Ask questions, send us some episode ideas. Let us know, your thoughts or if you've got some great non-toxic tips for things, or you use a flower in your garden that we didn't mention, let us know. We'd love to bring it up in the next episode. So again, tune in with us. Next episode is April 26th, Monday at 10 a.m. live on Facebook. And Tarrant, as always, thank you very much for joining us. And folks, stay tuned for our video of events coming up. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.